There's a quiet frustration building right now. Across the US, millions of people are doing everything they were told to do: saving money, working steady jobs, trying to be responsible. And still, homeownership feels further away than ever. Prices climbed too fast. Interest rates jumped. Down payments turned into something that takes years, sometimes decades, to build. What used to feel like a milestone now feels like a moving target. And the strange part is this: even people earning decent incomes are starting to feel locked out. So maybe the real question isn't how to catch up. Maybe the real question is, what if the way people are trying to buy homes no longer works? Think about how the traditional path looks. Save up for years, put down a large deposit, take on a 30-year mortgage, hope everything goes according to plan. On paper, it sounds stable. In reality, it feels overwhelming. A typical home might cost $400,000 or more. The down payment alone could be $60,000 to $80,000. Monthly payments stretch budgets to the limit. So naturally, many people choose to wait. Wait for prices to fall. Wait for rates to drop, until savings feel enough. But over the last decade, waiting hasn't made things easier. It has quietly made things harder. Homes became more expensive. Rents increased. Savings struggled to keep up. And without realizing it, a lot of people got stuck in a loop, working harder, saving more, yet feeling like progress isn't happening. And this is where things take an unexpected turn. What if the issue isn't effort, but the model itself? There's a belief that almost everyone grows up with. A home has to be owned fully by one person or one family, or it doesn't count. It sounds logical, but it's also limiting. Because in other areas of life, ownership already works differently. Stocks are owned in small pieces. Businesses are shared between multiple people. Even everyday expenses are often split. Yet, when it comes to real estate, the mindset stays stuck in an all-or-nothing approach. That gap between expectation and reality is where frustration builds. And this is exactly where a different approach begins to make sense. Fractional ownership is a simple idea, but it changes everything. Instead of buying an entire property, only a portion is owned. For example, instead of needing hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy a house, a smaller amount is used to purchase a percentage of that property. Ownership still exists. Equity still grows. If the property value increases, that growth is shared. If the property generates income, that income is shared too. So instead of standing outside the market, waiting for the perfect moment, there's a way to step inside even if it's on a smaller scale. And that small step can make a bigger difference than it first appears. Because this isn't just about money, it's about how people think about progress. For a long time, the system was predictable. Income grew steadily. Housing prices were manageable. Saving for a house felt realistic. But today's environment is different. Prices move faster than savings. Opportunities shift quickly. Delaying decisions often comes with a cost. This creates a psychological trap. It feels responsible to wait. It feels risky to try something new. So people stay in place even when the system around them has already changed. Fractional ownership challenges that pattern. It replaces the idea of needing everything up front with the idea of starting with what's available. And that shift, even though it sounds small, changes how progress happens. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Waiting for the perfect moment to buy a home may no longer work for most people, not because of a lack of discipline, but because the gap between income and housing costs keeps widening. And while waiting feels safe, it often means staying on the outside while the market keeps moving forward. Imagine two people in similar situations. Both have stable jobs, both have saved some money. Both want to enter the housing market. One decides to wait until a full home becomes affordable. The other chooses a different route. A smaller investment is made into a property through fractional ownership. Over time, that property increases in value. Some income is generated along the way, and more importantly, experience is gained. Years pass. The market continues to grow. The person who waited is now facing even higher prices. The person who started small is already part of the system. The difference didn't come from earning more, it came from entering earlier. So the question becomes, how can this actually be done in a practical, safe way? The first step is understanding where these opportunities exist. There are platforms and legal structures that allow shared ownership of property. Some focus on rental properties. Others allow small groups to invest together. The second step is clarity. Before entering any agreement, it's important to understand how decisions are made, how profits are shared, and how an exit would work. The third step is focusing on properties that can generate income. Even a small amount of regular cash flow adds stability and reinforces the investment. The fourth step is keeping emotions separate. This approach works best when treated as an entry into real estate, not as a dream home. And finally, growth comes from consistency. Starting small, learning from each step, and gradually increasing involvement over time. Experienced investors tend to see ownership differently. It's not viewed as a single moment or a final destination. It's seen as a process, something that builds gradually. The biggest advantage isn't having everything at once. It's being involved early and staying involved over time. Because in markets like real estate, time and exposure often matter more than perfection. The housing market today can feel discouraging, like the rules changed without warning, like the finish line keeps moving further away. But sometimes, progress doesn't come from chasing the old path harder. It comes from finding a different way forward. Owning a home may not look the same as it once did, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Because building something meaningful doesn't always start with owning everything. Sometimes it starts with simply getting in. A different approach doesn't guarantee instant success, but it creates something far more valuable, a way to move forward instead of standing still.